6 o'clock Central African time, and that means it's time to rise and shine. Right here on Channel Africa, where we bring you the African perspective. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program. We are broadcasting live from our studios in Johannesburg, South Africa, on www.channelafrica.co.za. And you can also catch us on your mobile. You can just go to your mobile app store and look for SABC Plus. That's SABC Plus. And then look for Channel Africa, and a whole world will open up for you in terms of news, current affairs, and entertainment as well. My name is Peter Ndoro. Good morning, Asanda, Beda.
Good morning,
good to have you
Channel
back.
Africans. A very good morning to everyone, and thank you for joining us on this. It's the 27th of October already.
Wow.
How was your weekend?
It was great. It was restful. I spent it at home chilling. October is finished.
October's finished.
Wow.
I think you spent it with family as much as I also did. I had a wonderful weekend. It was awesome. It was so beautiful. I just needed it for the soul. But then hearing the news of one of our colleagues passing just dampened things a little bit. I think we're all still in shock as Channel Africans. And the team losing Paseka Makafula, one of our technical team members. And of course, may his soul rest in peace. And we'll get into the week in terms of what's happening in and around our continent. And we are together for the next 3 hours, everyone.
So, we had elections in Côte d'Ivoire over the weekend, and we wonder what that's going to mean for the country. We'll be unpacking that, no doubt. This and the news, which is next with... Just testing.
SABC News, independent and impartial.
From an African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. At least 4 people have reportedly been killed by gunshots in opposition protests in Cameroon's commercial capital, Douala, yesterday. This comes ahead of election results expected to be announced today. The campaign of presidential candidate Issa Chiroma called for the protests to demand the results of an October 12 vote to be respected. Chiroma declared himself the winner of that 12 October elections. In an interview with the BBC, he said his team has compiled the overall picture based on results from individual polling stations, so there is no doubt he secured victory. The 76-year-old is a former government minister who broke ranks with President Paul Biya, who is 92 and is seeking another term after 43 years in power. South Africa's Justice and Constitutional Development Ministry is desperately managing consequences following the attempted arrest of UN human rights lawyer Francesca Albanese at the weekend. Papers were served to Albanese after she delivered the annual Nelson Mandela lecture in Johannesburg on Saturday. Minister Mamoloko Kubai apologized to Albanese and instructed that action be taken to rectify the matter. The incident against the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories is linked to pro-Israel groups, Christian Friends of Israeli Communities and Christians for Israel USA. The department spokesperson is Terence Manasseh.
The minister has since instructed that this irregular service be withdrawn. So that's the first step. And the second step is resides around this consequence management that the minister has instructed the acting DG to effect. So the two actions, the withdrawal and the consequence management, they will assist in addressing the matter. And the special rapporteur, nothing will happen to them given the instruction that the minister has given.
Albanese has declined to comment on her attempted arrest.
I really beg you to understand that for the past 2 years, I've taken on and I've made enormous sacrifices, personal sacrifices, to keep me, my personal issues, my personal drama aside, and I'm here to speak about Palestine. I'm here as a special rapporteur of the United Nations on the occupied Palestinian territory, and I would very much appreciate if you ask me questions related to this, and on the rest, I have no comment.
A new report has warned that half of the world's uncontacted indigenous peoples could be wiped out in the next decade if governments don't provide greater protection. The advocacy group Survival International says nearly 200 such groups still live in voluntary isolation worldwide. It says they face threats of logging, mining and oil drilling operations. Thomas Dos Santos is an elder who lives deep in the Amazon near a group that's under threat.
You hear it every morning. The logging machines. We ask for the logging to be further away, but it's coming closer. The machines run day and night. And those in the forest, our brothers, how do they feel? We're used to the noise, but they've never heard it, and they're watching their forests destroyed.
Police in Britain have issued a direct appeal to an asylum seeker to hand himself in. Hadush Kebatu was mistakenly released from prison on Friday. He was jailed last month for the sexual assault of a woman and a 14-year-old girl. The BBC's Nick Johnson has the story.
David Lammy as well, the Deputy Prime Minister, said he's livid on behalf of the public that something like this could have happened. I mean, it's not immediately clear exactly what has happened, but the BBC has spoken to sources associated with Chelmsford Prison in Essex, who seem to suggest that Hadush Kebatu was directed away from the prison towards the town's railway station when he should have been transferred to an immigration detention facility.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jolani Tulo Wepe.
SABC News, independent and impartial.
From an African perspective.
In our sports headline, Mamelodi Sundowns have secured the 11th straight qualification to CAF Champions League group stages. And Netball South Africa has elected a new president to start a new chapter. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
So it's that time during live streaming and connecting with us however you are on Rise and Shine, where we bring you the Africa Roundup. This comes after the 6 a.m. news, where we catch you up with stories you may have missed over the weekend. It is a Monday, so quite a lot of news to cover in and around our continent. And this amount of news, or this segment of the news, the Africa Roundup, is compiled by our team of researchers, our reporters and editors. And it also serves as a way of a throw forward as to what we can expect to develop in this new week. So today we start with Ivory Coast, who went to the polls on Saturday for a presidential election, with incumbent Alassane Ouattara seeking a fourth term, widely seen as the favorite. Over 8 million voters were registered. Here's Caroline Malone with more.
I see from this election that peace has returned, that everyone turned out to vote, and I would like to thank them. I thank each and every one of you for using this message and for ensuring that the election ended well and that we will have the results later. Thank you.
A former international banker and deputy managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Ouattara has helped place Ivory Coast among the fastest growing economies in the region, although his rivals accuse him of eroding democratic institutions and failing to provide equitable growth. Laurent Gbagbo and former Credit Suisse CEO Tidjane Thiam were barred from running. A runoff will be held if no candidate wins more than 50% of the vote.
A proposed resolution to extend Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa's time in office has been rejected by some politicians and analysts. The ruling ZANU-PF party is pushing the measure, which would keep the president in power beyond 2028. National Constitutional Assembly leader Professor Lovemore Madugu have commented on the proposal.
The proposal, as far as we understand it, cannot be done by Parliament. Parliament has no power to say someone who was elected by the people for 5 years. It is the people who elected, and that person went to the people to get a 5-year mandate. He got it direct from the people. And then after getting that 5-year mandate, you go to some other people to extend a mandate which they never gave you in the first place. So what I'm saying is that legally, Parliament has no power to do what is being proposed. It can't say, instead of you ending in 2028, you'll end in 2030. That can't happen because they don't have the power to do so.
UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese, says that supporting Palestine's self-determination is not an act of charity, but a binding duty for all states. She made the remarks whilst delivering the 23rd Nelson Mandela Annual Lecture in Johannesburg over the weekend.
Gaza is a wasteland of rubble, refuse and human remains where survivors cling to life and disease, deprivation, and the relentless weight of violence unseen anywhere this century. Over 240,000 killed or injured, surely many more, say the expert, and the numbers rise daily. To invoke Mandela's name is not to canonize him, but to awaken his unfinished struggle within each of us. His legacy invites us to embrace memory not as nostalgia, but as awareness and resistance. His life, not a statue of memory, but a living compass pointing us toward justice. And his lessons endure. The struggle for freedom is never the burden of one person alone, let alone a people alone.
And finally, a group of young South Africans are heading to Burkina Faso as part of the African Diaspora Development Institute's Going Home initiative. The conference brings together young activists and entrepreneurs from across Africa in the diaspora to exchange ideas. Participants will take part in a business summit, cultural dialogues, and community service visits to hospitals and libraries. South African influencer and youth activist Peter Kriel has more.
As Africa develops and evolves into the future magnet of the world, it becomes a place where we need to understand that Africa is much more than different lines on a map. It's a place where we need to stand together. I think it's important for myself to attend this conference because it brings a new perspective. It shows that we are open as the Afrikaner or the white community in South Africa to listen to different opinions and to bring prosperity to the African continent, which is important. As a descendant of Europeans, I've not been in Europe. My descendants have not been in Europe for 400 years. We should not be caring about the prosperity and the future of Europe. We should be caring about the prosperity and the future of the African continent and South Africa.
And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Africa Roundup. We'll do this again tomorrow, after the 6 a.m. news on Rise and Shine. But also, coming up, we delve deeper into some of the stories that we would have touched on here, as well as others, as we get a Roundup wrap. And we invite our resident analyst, Mighty Jamie, to talk to us about some of those stories, as well as a throw forward into the new week ahead. And Peter, our colleague, will be spearheading that conversation, so stay tuned.
África. Conhece o Ntivani?
Claro que sou eu.
Ntivani é o amante da música de corpo e alma.
Eu amo música africana.
Ele aprecia todos os tipos de melodias e passa os seus dias a ouvir a Channel África. Okay. Adivinha só, a Channel África quer ajudar o Ntivani e os amantes da música em todo o lado a descobrir ainda mais música incrível. Por isso, a Channel África está a convocar artistas africanos a submeterem as suas músicas. Músicos, lembrem-se de nos dar todas as informações relevantes no music@channelafrica.co.za. As submissões são a vossa oportunidade de ser ouvidos, mas não garantem inclusão na lista. Todas as submissões serão cuidadosamente analisadas para verificar se cumprem os requisitos da nossa estação. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine, weekdays 6 till 9 Central African Time on Channel Africa.
Ukatili wa kijinsia unaharibu maisha na kutenga jamii. Hutokea nyumbani, shuleni, kazini na mara nyingi kwa ukimya. Lakini hauwezi kuendelea. Ukiona, ongea. Ikiwa unaumia, funguka, kwa sababu kutofanya lolote sio chaguo. Sikiliza vituo vyote 19 vya redio kuanzia Jumatano ya tarehe 23 Julai kwenye mijadala, ushauri, tamthilia, maonyesho ya elimu na mahojiano na wataalamu, manusura, watunga sheria na nchi nzima iliyoathirika na ukatili wa kijinsia kwenye vituo vyako pendwa vya redio. Piga simu 0800 428 ili kuripoti unyanyasaji au kupata msaada. GBV ikomeshwe na wewe. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwenu na shirika la SABC.
Let the good times roll. From the 10th of October, make a note. Channel Africa is stepping into a brand new era with the launch of our upgraded website and app. It's easy, fresh, and always on your fingertips. Wherever you are in the world, Africa's voice is just a click away. The future of Channel Africa goes live from the 10th of October. Don't miss the moments. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Right, as we make our way to that conversation with Mighty Jamie, let's take a look at this story first, also touched on the Africa Roundup. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese, says supporting Palestine's self-determination is not an act of charity. This should be a binding obligation on all states, she says. The Italian human rights lawyer and author delivered the 23rd Nelson Mandela Annual Lecture in Johannesburg. It has been held under the theme Enhancing Peace and Global Cooperation. Bunolo Maribe has more.
It was a moment of introspection as the world is grappling with conflicts, deepening inequality, and a fractured geopolitical system. The key focus has been the current situation in Gaza, despite the ceasefire aimed at ending the hostilities. As United Nations Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese outlined in her speech.
Gaza is a wasteland of rubble, refuse, and human remains where survivors cling to life and disease, deprivation, and the relentless weight of violence unseen anywhere this century. Over 240,000 killed or injured, surely many more, say the expert, and the numbers rise daily.
Albanese has appealed to the international community not to be silent. She also lauded South Africa for taking Israel to the International Court of Justice. The UN Special Rapporteur says former President Nelson Mandela's legacy continues to be an inspiration.
To invoke Mandela's name is not to canonize him, but to awaken his unfinished struggle within each of us. His legacy invites us to embrace memory not as nostalgia, but as awareness and resistance. His life, not a statue of memory, but a living compass pointing us toward justice. And his lessons endure. The struggle for freedom is never the burden of one person alone, let alone a people alone.
While former International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor emphasized the ongoing importance of the Palestinian struggle.
The question of Palestine is one of the most important questions of freedom and justice in our world today, and it's absolutely vital that we do not draw our attention away from the plight of the Palestinian people, and that we, as freedom-loving South Africans, continue to argue for their freedom, for their self-determination, just as Nelson Mandela always did.
Albanese has been subjected to sanctions by the U.S. administration due to her reports against Washington, D.C.'s chief ally Israel. This is what she had to say when asked if any of the U.S. representatives had approached her while in South Africa.
I would really like to take this opportunity, and I really beg you to understand that for the past 2 years, I've taken on and I've made enormous sacrifices, personal sacrifices, to keep me, my personal issues, my personal drama aside, and I'm here to speak about Palestine.
Meanwhile, she is expected to release another report about the current situation in Palestine. Albanese called out some countries and companies for enabling the genocide in Gaza. Bonolo Maribe, SBC News, Johannesburg.
Okay, it's 6:20 Central African time. I'm hoping that we've got Mighty Jamie on the line because we'd love to catch up with him. Lots of things happened over the weekend. We had the election that took place in Côte d'Ivoire, and it doesn't look like Mighty Jamie is there at the moment, but you and I can chat a little bit. There is this rather embarrassing situation in South Africa at the moment. Mm-hmm. South Africa spearheaded, of course, taking Israel to the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, for genocide. Albanese from the UN, humanitarian, gets caught up in the most embarrassing thing that happened. Papers were served on her after delivering her speech.
23rd annual
the Minister
Mandela lecture.
Justice had no idea about this. The Director General, otherwise known as a permanent secretary in other countries, had no idea about this, which means a lower official in the ministry, in the department, must have okayed this, because this kind of paper issued by the sheriff or delivered by the sheriff of the court cannot happen without the permission of the Minister of Justice. I suspect there's going to be some tough meetings in the office today. Wow.
Adding to the toughness also of what's happening with the ad hoc committee in Parliament, looking at the SAPS and the Madlanga Commission. Questions are just circulating around the country.
Well, I mean, the whole thing about last week was you had Minister Mkunu, current minister, suspended, albeit, of police, saying one thing, and then his immediate past police minister saying something completely different, both from the ANC. Lots of things happening there as well.
A lot of things happening.
Yeah.
And of course, this week we are going to be talking about the voting that's happening in Tanzania. Our continent is busy in voting. I think we already said that. So they're voting on Wednesday. And we'll see how that one unfolds as the vote counting in Ivory Coast is continuing. We'll be getting into that. And one wonders in terms of the legitimacy of that election in Tanzania, where opposition parties have been trampled basically on.
It is. What is really sad about that is Samia Suluhu Hassan. I genuinely thought, and maybe it's unfair because it is kind of gender-based and maybe stereotypical, but I genuinely thought that a woman in charge would have a softer hand on things in the country. I did think that, I promise you. And sadly, on social media, they're calling her Mama Idi Amin because of how severe her rule has been so far. I interviewed a woman last week, and this is going to be our podcast this week, Agatha Atahuri, and I think we've spoken about her here. What she told me about what the police did to her put a chill in my spine. I had no words, and
and that's the thing. It's one thing for what's being reported on the news, and we know already they have been silenced as well, journalists in that country. And then it's another when you actually hear from the ordinary Tanzanians, and you get a better picture of what's actually going on.
Oh no, it is shocking what they've been subjected to. Anyway, let's take a look at this. South Africa's Commission for Gender Equality has raised serious concerns about the declining representation of women in South Africa's political parties. Speaking at the launch of a new report titled A Lack of Commitment, assessing women's participation and representation in the 2024 national provincial elections in Johannesburg, in South Africa last Friday, the Commission's chief executive officer, Dennis Matutoka, said that women continue to be underrepresented in leadership, both at local and national levels. Channel Africa reporter Michael Mbewe picks up the story for us.
South Africa's Commission for Gender Equality is one of the institutions established in terms of Chapter 9 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa 1996. In terms of Section 187 of the Constitution, the mandate of the CGE is to contribute to strengthening and deepening constitutional democracy in South Africa through the promotion, protection, development and attainment of gender equality. The monitoring and assessment of elections is one of the fundamental aspects of the CGE's comprehensive program to promote gender equality in South Africa. This initiative thoroughly evaluates the advancement in political representation and participation of women and marginalized genders in the electoral process. In his remarks, Commission's CEO Dennis Matotoka said women participation in politics is on the decline.
When we looked at the party lists, we found that there is a positive representation of women in terms of leadership roles. That is a concern. We have also unearthed that in terms of the representation at local elections as well as national, we are slowly seeing the reduction of women representation, which is a great concern to us. And we are saying that a political party that is committed to gender equality, that embeds the principle behind its practices and policies, will be evident when it comes to service delivery. Because even at the crux of service delivery, we cannot forego the principle of gender equality, because we know that when service delivery is not delivered, who is affected the most and to what extent?
The 2024 election results indicated that women's representation in the National Assembly has decreased to 43%, down from 46% in 2019. Matotoka urged all political stakeholders to come to the party in breaking gender equality disparities despite the pushback.
There is a need for the sector itself or political parties to come to the fore and embrace the principle of gender equality, which is a constitutional right. But we must be deliberate when we say equity must be realized. And from our report, we know that we have some political parties that are opposed to the principle of achievement of equity. But we are saying that is the mechanism that is required to really ensure that we balance and we ensure the marginalized are realized in terms of representation. So we call on political parties to have gender equality and equity as an imperative requirement when it comes to representation of their delegates.
He said he told the country's parliament that political parties must look inward and assess why women are hesitant to take up leadership roles, implying this could provide crystal clear path of addressing the challenge.
There is a school of thought when we were in parliament last week that says, CGE, what do we do about women that do not avail themselves to take leadership roles? And we throw it back to the leaders of political parties that perhaps maybe you need to do a risk assessment to determine why women within your structures are not keen to take leadership positions. You might find that one of the reasons is that we have not created an enabling environment where women's needs and interests are prioritized and balanced. And then once you do that risk assessment, we are of the view that you will have clear action plans in terms of how to address those deficiencies and challenges.
And as South Africa is a stone throw away to the 2026 local government elections, Matotoka called on stakeholders to look themselves in the mirror on how to overturn the patriarchal system.
And we are saying on the year before 2026 elections, we are calling on the key role players that have been identified in our report. That is our political parties, our IEC, our civil society, that there must be a moment of reflection in terms of how are we going to change the discourse or the status quo as we are going to 2026. And as the Commission, we are saying the status quo can only be changed if we are deliberate about embedding gender equality and equity in the representation of political parties.
GCE's head of department responsible for public education and information, Philisiwe Gabela, highlighted the ANC as the only party with a balanced women representation, while noting the EFF as an exception.
Currently, the African National Congress, which is the ANC, is the only political party that has formally adopted a 50-50 gender quota policy. And this system is designed to ensure that both women and men have equitable opportunities to be elected to governance positions. The economic freedom fighters It stands out as an exception amongst opposition political parties that have not adopted gender policies. It has embraced the practice of adopting balanced gender representation in selecting party candidates for various elective offices, although its approach has not been established as an official policy. This is the information according to the Economic Freedom Fighters.
The South African Independent Electoral Commission, mandated with overseeing of elections through its Limpopo's Provincial Electoral Officer Nkaro Matete, weighed in by recommending public outreach programs to educate communities on candidate nominations.
We recommend as the Electoral Commission that the Gender Commission should assist us. I hope you have an outreach department to educate South Africans. I think it's no use talking to political parties only. These matters affect the society as a whole. So we need to educate our society and our communities, particularly at the level of rural communities. Women have a role to play. And I think if we go all out through our outreach programs and educate communities that they must respect the rights of women to participate not only during elections but also participate in all facets of life, because if we were to hold elections right now and request people to nominate candidates, you will find that female participant will nominate a male candidate.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
And now it's 6:31 Central African Time. Let's get our news headlines. Here's Dwelane Tulo Mwepe.
Ndathokoza kwambiri.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. Making headlines, at least 4 people have reportedly been killed by gunshots in opposition protests in Cameroon's commercial capital, Douala, yesterday. This comes ahead of election results expected to be announced today. South Africa's Justice and Constitutional Development Ministry is desperately managing consequences following the attempted arrest of UN human rights lawyer Francesca Albanese at the weekend. And finally, in Argentina, President Javier Milei's party has won a landslide victory in key mid-term elections, seen as a test of the president's program of radical cost-cutting measures. I will have details on these and other stories at 7 o'clock.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Right, let's catch up with the sports. Here's Fikile Lingwati, and I've got to say, I know he's smiling because he's a Man United supporter like me, and we won our 3rd game in a row. Wow.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Yes, indeed. Good morning, Peter. And we begin with the CAF Champions League. Mamelodi Sundowns cruised to the group stage of the CAF Champions League with a mammoth 7-1 aggregate victory over Remo Stars. After a comfortable 5-1 win away in Nigeria last week, the Brazilians recorded a 2-0 victory in the second preliminary round. Second leg clash at home on Sunday. Nuno Santos opened the scoring at Loftus Versfeld after 21 minutes, and Peter Shalulile weighed in with his obligatory goal when he fired home on the half-time mark. With progression all but secured, Downs boss Miguel Cardoso opted to rest captain Ronwin Williams and play veteran Dennis Onyango in goal. There was also a start Shalulile, who was lively early on as he looked to get wide and provide a cross only to be crowded out. Now, cricket news. Proteas women wicketkeeper Beda Sinalochafta says the loss to Australia is just an opportunity to reflect on themselves and reset their strategy going into the ICC Women's World Cup semi-finals. Captain Laura Vorvat top scored with 31, while Jafta contributed a quick-fire 29 runs, and she says they'll go back and work on their batting before Wednesday's semi-final against England.
Yeah, I think from us as a team, it gives us a great opportunity.